Now, a while back, we looked into one interesting form of Bowser that seemed to be incredibly powerful, Dry Bowser. However, while he is certainly strong in this form, we've also seen him use other things to obtain a new power, like the Super Bell, which transformed him into Meowser. And today I want to find out who is actually stronger, this weird cat form or the original king of the Koopas. Well, let's find out. In one corner, we have the OG villain of the Super Mario series, a gigantic creature known as a Koopa, which seems to be a combination between a dragon and a turtle of sorts. For years, he has been terrorizing the lands of the Mushroom World, attacking multiple kingdoms in games like Super Mario Bros. 3, or just one that Princess Peach rules. Actually, he has been harassing them more than all the others. Seems a bit unfair, but that's besides the point. With his abilities of shooting fireballs, slashing enemies with his enormous claws, or even ground pounding on them, he can do a ton of damage. All of this certainly makes him a feared enemy, and quite a difficult one to take down, even if he doesn't use any special powers to enhance his skills. So with all of this being the case, is there anything that can truly make him better and even beat him aside from Mario and his friends, of course? Well, maybe. Because in the other corner we have Meowser, who was even seen as Super Mario Maker 2, surprisingly enough. I mean, a lot of us didn't see that one coming. Now, originally the form was introduced in Super Mario 3D World, and he obtains it in the final battle in the Great Tower of Bowser Land. And when he finally gets it, he has some interesting powers in this form. For example, being able to climb really well, walking on all fours, breathing fireballs, slashing with his extra long claws, and using his tail to hit you. Overall, you can see he's a lot more mobile and tends to use melee attacks more than the normal Bowser, making him an interesting and challenging foe that's quite different from his normal form, which is good for a boss fight. Although I have to say it's kind of sad that you just run away from him the whole time and don't actually have a battle in any way. And this kind of inspired me to make this video, because while this new super form of Bowser sounds fun and all, there's one important question we got to answer. Who is ultimately better, even though they're quite similar to each other? Is this added power-up really worth it? Well, in order to find out, we will use the same criteria as we did with Dry and normal Bowser. So we will look at their attacks, health, and stamina, with strategy being left out because they're the same person after all. Now let's start with our number 1. First up, the normal Bowser. Now, as you all know, I have already talked about Bowser a lot. Even in the last Versus video I talked about his powers, so I will keep this quite short, so it's not the same all over for you dedicated viewers. I love you, by the way. Now, as we all know, he has multiple different powers he could use in combat, with the most famous one being fire breathing. In almost every game he uses this powerful attack, and he can even do multiple different types of them, like continuous flares, fire rain flurries, individual fireballs, and way more. Even being able to use it underwater, which is quite surprising and breaks physics. Now, aside from this, he can of course use his claws and quite short tail, although he doesn't use those to attack a whole lot. And even in the most recent games like Super Mario Odyssey, he can use things like a hat with boxing gloves, brick blocks he can throw, and create fire rings. Clearly, he has quite a lot of options. Mostly ranged fire attacks, to be honest. But would this be enough? Well, Meowser can also shoot fireballs and stuff, so he can deal with some heat and return it, of course, in many different ways. Aside from that, he has some amazing jumping and climbing abilities, making him a lot more agile than the normal form. Aside from that, the two aren't very different, to be honest. The most important thing that you gain from the Super Bell power-up is handy movement options. So when it comes down to it, who has the upper hand here in terms of abilities and attacks? Well, personally, I would say that Meowser has a higher chance of winning here, just because of one reason: the spectacular advantage of greater mobility. Bowser is a rather slow enemy who can't dodge attacks very well, or even attack fast in any way. So thanks to the fact that Meowser can actually do all of this, he has an advantage in battle, easily dodging any attacks like Mario does, or even climbing high up and jumping down to strike. They have the same abilities after all, but one of them has a lot more movement options. Just like the Italian plumber hero who wins again and again and again. And as we know, stuff like that does help a lot with defeating an enemy like Bowser, whose attacks are powerful, but extremely slow. So when it comes to this segment, Meowser certainly wins. He can still use the same attacks and other things, but it's just faster and can climb. But what about the next point? Their health. How long will they last in battle? Well, of course, they're quite similar to each other, and we have seen Bowser survive some absolutely crazy stuff. For example, an entire building falling right on top of him, or a sun imploding right next to him, both of which didn't end well. So, as you can imagine, both the normal and cat form of Bowser can survive almost anything you throw at them. So, who can handle more then? Well, this is quite a difficult thing to figure out, since they're so incredibly similar. To be honest, figuring out who was tougher was quite easy the last time with Dry and normal Bowser, but this one is tricky. Personally, I would say that Meowser will last longer, purely because of one big reason. Those power-ups give you an extra hit. When Mario, or any other hero like Luigi, picks up a super mushroom, they can take one more hit from any foe they encounter. So I assume that when Bowser obtains the Super Bell, which has a similar effect on the Mario Brothers as well, that it will make the Koopa villain more tough. At least a little bit. Because of this, I would say that Meowser is more powerful. He can take more hits thanks to the Super Bell. Now, we can't be certain about this because there's no proof really. Maybe it doesn't work like this with Bowser at all. Or maybe it does. Who knows? However, it seems logical that he would gain this extra bit of health as well. So thanks to that, I would say that Meowser wins this one again. It might be a minor advantage that he has, but it's at least something, making him the winner of this section for sure. Now we get to our very last point, stamina. Who can keep up the fight longer before becoming completely exhausted? Well, when it comes to this one, it once again becomes quite difficult, because they are overall quite similar. So in order to figure out who can keep going the longest, we will have to compare their hardcore parkour skills, seen in the games. If we look at the normal Bowser, we can see that he's already quite fast and is able to hold out for quite long. One good example of this is the fight scene in Super Mario Odyssey where he jumps around, throws brick balls, and blocks attacks like a champ. So he can hold out for quite a while even if he performs all kinds of complex attacks and moves that require a lot of energy. However, I have to say that this is one of the best examples of this, because if you think of games like New Super Mario Bros. And Super Mario 64, you don't see anything impressive. Here, he doesn't do anything at all, to be honest. Just some walking here and there and some attacks. No jumping or anything else completely crazy, so he can also be quite lazy. Teehee, cheeky little rhyme for you. And thanks to that, I would say that his stamina is good, but not the best, to be honest. Otherwise, he would use it more often. Mario's biggest strength is speed after all, so if Bowser could match this in any way, he should always do this, but he doesn't. So this already puts him at a bit of a disadvantage compared to his cat form, who can do some pretty crazy things without breaking a sweat. Because in Super Mario 3D World, after using a Super Bell, he tries to hunt down Mario, and does this by climbing a large tower. But it isn't just climbing. Oh, no. No. He also shoots fireballs, scratches through entire walls, and more, all while working his way up. Also, I want to tell you that there are more videos in the upper right corner. I know I mention this every now and then, but there are like playlists there and like more videos, and you can subscribe. Please do those things. Like, I know some of you don't. I can see you. Anyways, let's continue. Clearly, this is way more intensive than anything the normal Bowser ever does. In Super Mario 3D World, he only started doing stuff like this as soon as he got the power-up. Before that, he would even use a car instead of really fighting Mario and his friends. So this already tells us enough, I think. And if we look at games like Super Mario Maker 2, we can see once again that he's very agile and fast, which doesn't take any effort at all, showing us once again that he can do some amazing things thanks to the powers gained from the Super Bell. And because of that, I would say that Meowser wins this category as well. He just outperforms his normal form once again. And as you might have noticed by now, the Mad Cat has actually won every round. So I would say that the chances of Meowser winning are pretty high. In the end, it's way more than just a weird cat form. It allows him to be so much more agile that it would put his normal form at an instant disadvantage. He just can't keep up, and if Meowser can attack without being noticed, then the jump attack from above could be super effective. And then if he gets hit, he will most likely last longer than his normal form because of the extra health a power-up gives you. So clearly he is the winner. And personally, I would love to see this fight actually happen. And who knows, maybe it will actually happen one day.